Welcome back to the Sports Trigger, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the NFL playoff picture, which is starting to get a little clear, a little murky, and a little bit of everything else. Travis, are you ready?
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Sports Trigger, everyone. It is the playoffs that is quickly approaching, actually. A lot of teams with 13 games in already. Pretty exciting stuff. There's some battles, some scrums there for the last few spots, which I think will probably head into the last weekend of football, which is good for fantasy owners. We all know why. Travis, what do you think right now of some of the playoff races? I mean, they're getting pretty intense.
Yeah, it's very intense, especially in the AFC. Yeah, both of us have talked about how jumbled it is for those last two wild card spots. Even for division races, you have Kansas City's division. You still have the Chargers and Oakland, who are right there and can still snag that spot, which I hope the Chargers get in. Go Phillip Rivers. Then you have Pittsburgh, who they're the only one that's locked up their division, I believe, in the AFC. That was with their win. New England, I'm sure, will lock it up tonight against the Dolphins and JJ. And then you have Jacksonville. So AFC's interesting, but I feel like NFC has so many more strong teams that if they barely got into the playoffs, being the wild card spot, I feel like they would have almost just as good a chance of, a top 4 seed beating an AFC ranked team.
I mean, obviously the surprise when I look at the playoffs in the AFC right now, Jaguars, division leaders, and then right behind them the Titans are in the playoffs too, and then you got the Bills sneaking in there right now. I mean, the Jaguars, for everybody at the beginning of the year and still saying that Bortles should not be in place there. They've been pretty impressive on defense, and you know what? This last weekend against Seattle, Fournette over 100 yards and touchdowns. Very impressive there. They've been able to run the ball. They've been able to win several different ways. But yeah, when you look at the AFC, my mind is it's New England and everybody else, because even when you look at Pittsburgh, I mean, I just see New England when they're at full strength, when you have, Gronk still in there. They're just head and shoulders above of Pittsburgh, actually. I mean, last year everybody was like, oh, New England Pitt could be a good playoff, and it wasn't. And so I just see it New England over there, where the NFC, you have a lot of really talented teams. I mean,
very talented.
You have Atlanta sitting there for a potential wild card bid. I mean, they are nobody wants to see that offense if they're clicking in the actual playoffs. New Orleans, who wants to see them? Carolina's been playing well. And then at the top, you have the Rams, who would have guessed that? I mean, they've been just absolutely atrocious the last few years. And you get a new coach in McVay, and all of a sudden Goff takes off that offense. Now, that offense did add a few other players, which I think ended up helping, just spreading around. But ultimately, the new coach there helped the most. And then, we'll see how the Eagles are without Wentz. That's going to be interesting to see. But Minnesota's sitting there with a great defense and, an equally impressive offense this year as well, which I think is the big uptick there. That's a dangerous team because they can win, and no matter what weather you put them in, and no matter what type of game you put them in. I mean, they could win a 10-7 game. Then they've also showed that they can score and, put up in the upper 30s. So, they've been probably the most intriguing team outside of Philly when Wentz has been in.
Yeah, and I definitely would have gone with Philly as my NFC pick if Wentz was still there. That's not to say, if they lock up home field advantage, they still can't win the NFC, because Nick Foles is a pretty good backup. Obviously, just probably won't throw it as much as they did. They'll probably rely more on Blunt and Ajayi, I would imagine. So the two in the NFC that I really look at here, because I'm fairly confident that the Vikings are going to end up getting home field advantage as well, get one of the two spots. You got Minnesota and then New Orleans. New Orleans is a question mark to me, kind of like Philadelphia, to where.
They can run though.
Well, the question to me though is Kamara.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if he's only out one game or so and he's back fully healthy, then, I actually like them to make it to the NFC Championship game, depending on their road, because their defense is surprisingly a lot better than what they were last year. I mean, very surprisingly better. And then obviously their offense speaks for itself. So,
well, Ingram and Kamara, they've been on a tear this year. That's been a huge difference. I mean, even if you look at this last loss that New Orleans had, I mean, Drew Brees threw a pick, in the end zone.
Which he doesn't do.
Right.
In those spots, he doesn't do that. They do. And it's very surprising. And, I know I saw a graphic the other day about how much less Brees has been throwing this year. And that's just going back to what you say about how great they've been rushing. That's a testament to what they've kind of revamped in order to take pressure off of him, which obviously he was great when he had to throw a bunch anyways, but that just limits, the possibility of turnovers, which, the past couple of years he had been throwing picks more frequently than what he had previously, but that's just because they really didn't run the ball that much.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, when you have no balance and then you're playing from behind, having to throw, teams can sit back. So that kind of made sense, but now, they have some running game. A team that I am, and I hate to say this, am keeping my eye on, just based on the last few weeks, building a little bit of momentum, starting to play a lot better, and then they'll eventually get Zeke back, it's the Dallas Cowboys.
Don't do it.
And
don't say that.
I hate to say it. I don't want to say, I mean, they just beat the Giants, alright? That's not impressive. And before that was the Redskins.
Right.
So
are you saying this just because you're moving to Dallas? Is that the sole reason?
Yeah,
or are you just trying to get on everyone's good side?
I want to say it, but I'm telling you, man, watch out for them, because if they sneak in, sometimes those teams that are just firing on all cylinders, they were a good team last year. I don't think they're nearly as good this year, and they're not the same team, but they're starting to fire on all cylinders. Once you get Ezekiel Elliott back, gosh,
when do they get him back? How many games will be left?
At least a few more weeks, right? He's only set the last 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So he at least has 2 more.
I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They're at the Raiders, which the Raiders have been terrible this year. So, if they won that, I wouldn't be surprised. Then they get the Seahawks at home. I like the Seahawks there, but who knows what they're going to do. They're off and on as well.
And then Richard Sherman.
Right. No Richard Sherman. And no Chancellor, correct? Right? Chancellor's the other guy out. And then, their defense definitely isn't. I mean, they don't have the bodies that they usually do. And then Cowboys at the Eagles, the very last game.
And without Wentz,
of their season.
How they'll be. And anyways, even if they did have Wentz, there would be a good chance that they'd be sitting him. Actually, you know what? Interesting. I bet Foles was going to play in this game no matter what.
Yeah, that's true. I could see that. That would make sense.
To be honest, though, the Eagles are still probably going to be playing a lot of their starters, though, because they want to make sure they still have rhythm with Foles at QB. So that might actually work against Dallas.
Yeah, they're still trying to build that camaraderie ship, between them all, especially. So that's an interesting. And I'm not surprised that you said that. I'm just not. I love Dak Prescott. I really do. I don't like any other Cowboy except for Martin, who's on the offensive line. Went to one of the best colleges you could go to. But that's for another day.
It's another day that's not going to happen.
Yeah. But you know what? Seriously though, NFC, I really don't see anyone aside from who you just. Green Bay would be interesting just because. I don't know if Rodgers is actually expected to come back this week or not. Hopefully not, because they play the Panthers, and I'd love to see the Panthers actually win and Rodgers not come back and throw like 4 touchdowns or something like that.
I don't know, man. Like, the Packers, their defense didn't look good against the Browns. And I mean, I'm sorry, if you have to come back, usually against the Browns you can struggle a little bit, but I mean, if your
Josh Gordon, that's the Browns' answer.
If your defense is championship quality, you're not going to have to come back down 14 points.
Oh, they are not. Their defense is nowhere close to what they were in years past, to where they would make it to the NFC Championship game or make those runs, and they obviously have the good offense as well. So, but I mean, as far as NFC goes, like we said, there's so many solid teams, even those that are not currently in any playoff spot, being Seattle. You have, I want to put Detroit in there, but Green Bay, Dallas. But AFC, like I said, I really hope that the Chargers make it, just because their defense is pretty solid. Their defensive line is very good, and then their offense is really clicking as well. So,
it'd be one
I'd like to see them make it.
Impressive. I mean, Phillip Rivers actually getting back into the playoffs. I would love to see that. He's got a good personality. He deserved it.
I think they started off 3-6 maybe, or 2-6, something like that. So
luckily for them, the Chiefs are just imploding.
Yeah, the bottom's falling out. So, but I mean, Chiefs are still in the driver's seat as long as they win out. But I fully expect the Chargers to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but I mean, they play the Chiefs next, so that's a big game. And then obviously we talked about New England and Pittsburgh. They play this next weekend at Pittsburgh, so those are
big week.
Yeah, those it's going to be a huge week. Carolina plays Green Bay. They're going to destroy them, so that'll be fun. That'll be fun to put another feather in the cap for Cam. I don't know what he was wearing this past. He's wearing some monkey hat or something like from the Aladdin movies. I don't know. It was if you get a chance, check that out.
Maybe it's the personal Disney curator is just like feeding him some clothes. I mean, that's fine. That's a good.
It's almost like
I'm fine with that.
It's almost like Impractical Jokers, that show, and someone dares him, oh, this is what you have to wear, and he does it no problem. Like,
yeah, why not?
Some of the things that guy is just ridiculous. I love him because he's my quarterback, but he's insane.
Yeah, I tell you what, I like his character though. He's not afraid to be himself. So
that's true.
That being said, guys, thanks a lot for joining us on the Sports Trigger. Talk a little NFL playoff picture today, and until next time.